Today, we're taking a look at Ratched, a series on Netflix that serves as a prequel to the book, and possibly the movie as well, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I never read the book prior to Ratched, but I definitely seen the movie back in high school. I don't remember why we watched the movie and never read the book, but it is what it is. Not going to lie, when I heard that this was a prequel focusing on a villainous female antagonist, I had a feeling I knew exactly where this was going. Granted, it had been a while since I had seen the movie, and I'd never read the book, but I had a feeling I already knew what trope we were going for here. I had a feeling we were going for the, women are never born evil and they don't become the bad guy just because women are three-dimensional. Unlike men, men are one-dimensional villains by nature as it is, and they only serve to keep women down. So we need to make a much more intricate scenario explaining why Nurse Ratched became the evil battle axe she is in the book, because, men. On one hand, I've heard through the grapevine that this is planned out to be a 4-season-long show, so it's probably going to happen eventually. But so far, with one season on Netflix, watched from start to finish, I can say with certainty that I never really got that vibe from this show, and it was actually really good. Right up until episode 10, but we'll get there in just a minute. Mildred Ratched applies for a job at a mental institution. To the unobservant, it seems like, she's just a nurse, she's applying for a job, it's her specialty, and, people gotta eat, right? But in reality, it's because her brother, or more accurately, her foster brother, one Edmund Tullison, I think is what his last name was, Tullison, he is being housed there, and they are trying to prove that he is, in fact, not mentally insane so that he can stand trial. And if he does stand trial, he's going to be found guilty, and he's going to get the death penalty. Ratched is doing everything in her ability to basically get him out of the mental institution and to safety. Barring that, keeping it so that people think he's mentally insane, and so he never has to stand trial. And it ends up being a really interesting story as it progresses, with the tangling threads and the various plots within plots. Nurse Ratched comes off as like this master manipulator who can basically get anyone to do anything with this cool demeanor. Granted, it does kind of start to fall apart somewhere around episode 8 and 9, but, for those first few episodes, it genuinely seems like she knows what she's doing. Almost as if she's had to do this before for this son of a bitch. Oh, and by the way, Nurse Ratched's gay in this one, because that was super duper necessary. Put that down on the old diversity list, and we can move on. This show does a really good job of being unsettling at times. I will honestly say that the whole origin story where, Mildred and Edmund were forced to perform lewd acts on stage for their foster parents and whoever would pay to see that, I kind of felt like that was cheap heat, but when you actually get into the medical procedures being demonstrated at the mental institution, like the frontal lobotomy or the scalding hot bath immediately followed by an ice bath, that was the kind of stuff that's like, wow, that was something to behold. I probably say this because I've probably mentioned this before, but I have had legit nightmares revolving around drills to the head, and that's a very easy way to unsettle me personally. But the thing that's more unsettling than the depictions on screen is the truth that we used to believe that this worked. We used to believe that the best way to cure lesbianism was to make somebody take a scalding hot bath and basically boil them for 5 minutes, then force them to go into an ice bath and have them freeze for like an additional 5 minutes. My times might be off, but that's basically the process detailed in one of the episodes, and people legitimately believed this. Oh, and as an interesting side note, the guy who invented the frontal lobotomy actually got a Nobel Peace Prize. Yeah, wrap your brain around that for a second. Kind of puts a couple of other Nobel Peace Prize winners into perspective for me personally. Man, we are horrible. On one hand, I have my opinions about a prequel to One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest in general. Like, it seems like the most unnecessary idea since Maleficent, but unlike Maleficent, the execution was actually really good, and I actually ended up enjoying this quite a bit. right up until episode 10, and sweet merciful Jesus, what the hell happened there? For starters, if you watched this series from episode 1 to episode 9 and you didn't bother looking at the list ahead of time and you didn't know ahead of time that there were 10 episodes, you would swear that this show ended on episode 9. Episode 9 basically wrapped up everything in a nice, delightful little package, and even if you knew there were 3 seasons coming afterward, you kind of figured, this would be kind of the one where it tests the waters, and if a season 2 happens, they have something to build off of, and if season 2 never happens, well, you have a nice little 9-episode horror show you can bring up on Halloween every now and then. But then episode 10 comes up, and it was like this was written by somebody completely unrelated to the entire writing team who worked on the first 9 episodes. Good God, this was a terrible episode, and it was designed specifically to bait you, get you hooked, get you interested in a possible second season, except by the time this episode was over, I was thanking Almighty God we were done, and I am already not looking forward to season 2. And it's a real shame, too, because I was really enjoying this show, so much so that I was on the verge of giving it a perfect 4 out of 4. I was even willing to overlook the fact that the governor is pro-death penalty, and in typical fashion was portrayed as a bloodthirsty, maniacal lunatic who's only interested in putting on a show instead of actually executing justice. Like all of us other people who support the death penalty supposedly are. I was willing to overlook that detail until episode 10 came along. Unfortunately, episode 10 came along, it was like the ultimate buzzkill, and I find myself left with no other choice but to give this thing 3 hats out of 4. And that's going to do it for this week's review. Be sure to tune in next time when I have another review for your listening pleasure. And hopefully soon I'll start doing reviews where I'm on camera again, because I'm starting to figure out how this camera works now, and I think I have a good enough setup. Or if you prefer the audio format, I could keep doing it that way as well. Either way, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, ring-a-ding the bell. All feedback is welcome and encouraged, and I would really love to hear your thoughts on this audio-only format, or if I should go back to doing, reviews where I sit in front of the camera, because feedback helps, folks. That's all I'm really saying in the long run. Until next time.